Hi there and welcome.
You're listening to Animals and Us, Voices of a New Paradigm.
My name is Avantika, and I'm a researcher exploring animal consciousness, environmental sustainability, and planetary health. I want to help bring animal perspectives to the table and transform our relationship with the natural world.
And I'm Barbara. I'm an animal communicator and retired veterinarian. My true passion is exploring the hearts and souls of animals and helping people come to a much deeper understanding of who the animals truly are at their core.
This podcast is for anyone who loves animals and nature and has an interest in their own personal and spiritual development. We'll bring you powerful conversations with fascinating people about animal and nature sentience, consciousness, and communication.
Thank you so much for joining us on this journey of love, respect, understanding, and care for the fellow beings who share our beautiful Mother Earth with us. Hello, everyone, and welcome. It's a true pleasure to introduce our guest today, Dr. Michael Fox. Dr. Fox is a pioneer in veterinary medicine, and his life's work has profoundly impacted how we care for and understand animals. His journey began in Lancashire, England, where his compassion for animals as a child led him to the Royal Veterinary College in London. He earned his veterinary degree there, followed by a PhD in medicine and a Doctor of Science in Ethology, which is the science of animal behavior, from the University of London. His early career saw him conducting groundbreaking research in animal behavior and development in the US, where he later became a leading voice in veterinary and animal ethics. His syndicated newspaper column, Animal Doctor, has provided expert guidance to countless animal lovers across North America. His articles, scientific publications, and contributions to encyclopedias have made him a trusted voice in animal care. And his groundbreaking research and leadership roles in organizations like the Humane Society of the United States have truly transformed animal welfare and veterinary ethics worldwide. He's authored over 40 books covering everything from animal behavior to holistic health, bioethics, and animal emotions, intelligence, and spiritual essence. His voice has been a beacon of compassion and wisdom for decades. Today, Dr. Fox continues his work as an advocate, educator, and writer, sharing his insights on holistic health, animal welfare, and environmental ethics. He's a passionate voice for the OneHealth concept, recognizing that human, animal, and environmental health are deeply interconnected. Personally, I met Dr. Fox many years ago at a holistic veterinary conference, and this is years ago. But even before that, I knew of Dr. Fox and his groundbreaking work with wolves and coyotes, as I was working as an ethologist at that time with those very same animals. And I just learned recently that Dr. Fox was the major professor for Dr. Mark Bekoff, who we've had on this podcast. And Dr. Bekoff has done some amazing work as well, much like his great mentor, Dr. Fox. So we are so fortunate and blessed to have you with us, Dr. Fox. Thank you so much.
Well, you were two blessings in my life, and thank you for inviting me.
It's definitely our pleasure. I'm very excited about this. And I want to add, I have 3 of your books sitting here. And the first one I got, this was written, The Boundless Circle, in 1996. That's a long time ago. And the first 2 chapters are all about animal awareness and animal souls, which was so groundbreaking and innovative for for way back then when I was just kind of hiding out, trying to pretend I could communicate with animals. So thank you for that. And I would like for you to start with your background, your personal story. What led you to become a veterinarian and to later get your PhD, and then eventually become a staunch animal advocate? What was that about?
Well, it began when I was walking home one day. It was during World War II, and something drew me to this veterinary clinic. And there was a brass plate on the door, the name of the fellow, an MRCVS, and that was member of the Royal College of Veterinary Surgeons. So you had to go to college to get a veterinary degree, I understood. But I looked through the fence in the back. Something drew me there. And there were two trash cans filled with dead kittens and puppies, dogs, cats. And I thought, my God, there must be something seriously wrong. And it was during that time of World War II when people simply couldn't afford to feed their animals anymore. And there was this mass euthanasia. There might have been some disease going on, but cats and dogs together in the same trash cans, buzzing with flies because it was early summer. And it struck me then that there was something wrong. But before that, when I was probably 7 years of age, I was playing in one of my ponds. And I explored pond life, and that to me was another universe of miracles, of aquatic creatures of all kinds. And there was a sack floating in one of the ponds, so I pulled it out, thinking, well, maybe some robber has put some treasure in there that he's going to retrieve later. So I opened it up. The litter of kittens that had been drowned. So I realized that there was something wrong in the human-animal connection. Then around that same time, around the pond, it was springtime when the male frogs hold on to the female frog to breed. It's called amplexus. You just pull them out of the pond and look at them, and that's what I did. And I put them back. There was a whole bunch of frogs around the edge of the pond, all been blown up, and they had straws shoved into them. And I thought, what kind of animal could have done this? Probably half a dozen frogs all blown up. And then I saw the little footprints. It was my peers. And to be honest, I did spend more time relating to animals in nature and the dogs that we rescued. My father was away during the war, but we'd rescue dogs. My mother would take them in, rehome them or keep them. And I felt at an early age that there was some radical disconnect in understanding between humans and other animals. They didn't treat them as though they had feelings or anything like that. And none of my peers had read that ridiculous French philosopher René Descartes, who said that the screams of a dog being vivisected without any anesthetic were just the sounds of a machine breaking down, because animals don't have emotions, they're just machines. And that view prevailed culturally for a long time before Charles Darwin came in and wrote his seminal book, The Origin of Emotions in Man and Animals. But my peers have not read any of that stuff. They were just somehow disconnected, or they felt they identified their own vulnerability in these little creatures, and they wanted to eliminate that feeling of vulnerability, so they killed them. That's one interpretation. So I vowed early on to become a veterinarian, and was very fortunate to get a scholarship to go to the Royal Veterinary College in London. But there was not one single course in animal behavior. the veterinary school at that time. So I took the path of studying animal behavior, and one of my first papers published in the British Veterinary Journal about sympathy lameness in dogs. I was seeing practice with a very well-known veterinarian who was doing orthopedic surgery. Some dogs would come in and limp, but it was not the leg that was operated on, it was another leg, but they were just doing it for sympathy. So I wrote a little essay on sympathy lameness in dogs, that they were feigning an injury to get attention. And that opened the door on animals having emotional problems, so forth. One veterinarian wrote castigating letters saying, "What, we're going to be veterinary psychiatrists next." It has moved forward now, and I was one of the founding members of the Veterinary Applied Ethology Association, become international. So we are moving forward slowly from animal behavior, applied ethology, animal welfare science, and then making the bigger connection between animal and human well-being. And then I did the complete circle to embracing the concept of One Health. We have one Earth and one health. And veterinarians have a pivotal role as the intermediaries between society and animals. And we need to be more vocal, especially in the realm of animal rights and their intrinsic values, the ecological value and services of wildlife to protect them, and the emotional and social values of companion animals, how they contribute to our mental health and so forth.
Michael, I think Barbara and I are both feeling the weight of just some of the stories you shared, and I'm sure, unfortunately, that there were probably many more. And I think I can speak on behalf of us and anyone who's listening to just say thank you for committing your life to this and devoting your life to changing our relationship with the animals and understanding them better. You've written your nationally syndicated column, which Barbara mentioned, Animal Doctor, for over 50 years. You've written about what you call the concept of empathosphere, and as well as the empathy deficit disorder. Your belief is that the empathosphere is real, and it is through compassion's sympathetic resonance with all life that we can begin to heal ourselves and the earth. I would love if you could share with us what those terms mean to you and how they relate to the ways in which humans interact with animals and the natural world.
Well, if anybody has seen the hoop dance of the Anishinaabe, the Native American, where the hoops are circling around the body in different positions, you should imagine that we're living in a biosphere, okay, the living Earth, and the universe itself is centered. Jupiter, Mars, the Moon, Sun, all things are communicating with each other, different frequencies. But we're trapped in our embryo stage as humans in egocentrism, the egosphere, or anthropocentrism, human-centeredness. We need to break through this phase of development of the egosphere. We go through the cosmic, the gate of consciousness, and open into the ecosphere, the environment. And the ecosphere is where everything is interconnected and interdependent and communicating. And at the feeling level, for us, that is the empathosphere. And I have examples of the empathosphere in animals, and where they're able to engage in remote sensing. They can feel at a distance And the first one to tell me about this was a woman whose dog, German Shepherd, uh, died on the operating table at noon at the veterinary hospital. And that their cat at home started flying and running around the home in absolute distress at noon. And they couldn't understand why. The veterinarian called an hour later and said, "Sorry to tell you that your dog died on the operating table at noon." And the cat felt this. Another related story was from a veterinarian who would close his clinic at different evening times, depending how many clients he had. But his wife always knew when to get the dinner on because the dog would run to the door and wait for him. And they decided to time it. And it was a 10-minute walk from his clinic to his home. And it could vary plus or minus an hour. But the dog always knew when he closed the clinic door. So there are many examples of that I've put out on my website and in one of my books on the empathosphere. And I just think of what we're doing to a lot of animals, like the harpooning of whales, what they're communicating to each other, and the suffering that the empathosphere opens us up. But when we're disconnected because of our state of mind, we have evidence of the empathy deficit disorder. And part of that is to protect ourselves from the suffering around us. So we create a defense mechanism or live in denial. But that makes us less than human. It can lead to depression and despair, especially in young people. But becoming involved in conservation, in rewilding your property, in rescuing and rehabilitating wildlife, stray animals, that's an engagement that can take people out of despair and depression. I was listening to an interview by Bill Moyers with Joseph Campbell, another famous anthropologist and ethologist. The word just came to me out of the blue that was not mentioned in the discussion, theophany. And I looked it up. There is such a word as theophany. And it's the presence of divinity. And that's the word that I needed to explain how I felt as a child. When I saw a crocus coming out of the snow, or a little robin redbreast singing on a branch, there's a preference for the sacred. And we can't live in the absence of the sacred. Here and there. And that's what the late Pope Francis said. We need a community of compassion and concern for the poor and for nature. I hope on you hope follow that same path. We all need to. It's the path of the heart, the Hopi path, of the Colin path, and the Hopi message, to live in balance, to live in harmony. And the essence of it all is really equalitarianism, of treating all living beings, all sentient beings, with equal and fair consideration. It's enlightened self-interest for Homo sapiens. And we gave ourselves the name Homo sapiens, man the wise. Got a bit of a way to go there. Homo empathicus. Make for the future. My dear friend Thomas Berry talked about the Echozoic age. We're in the Anthropocene here and now. He talked about the Echozoic age, the age of ecological awareness coming. And I think we're on a cusp now. We'll have to make a decision whether we're going to accelerate climate change, with Trump now giving the go-ahead to dig more coal and drill baby drill. And climate change is critical. Insect kingdom is beginning to crash. And the insects keep the fabric of life alive on the planet. And we can't afford to lose insects at the rate they're disappearing. And it's multi-factor habitat loss, pesticides, and non-ionizing radiation from satellites, telecommunications, affecting them, and ultimately it'll be to our own demise if we don't address climate change immediately. But we have a civilization that seems to be hell-bent on creating its own nemesis. So, class materialism and classic evidence of the empathy deficit disorder, disconnected. We can't continue that way.
Beautifully said, Michael. Thank you for that. It's quite a thing. But
I have a poem I'd like to read from my book of poetry, All Our Relations, just been published. Got my reading voice. I knew a child who looked into the eyes of animals and saw the self in others. A child who learnt the language of the trees and spoke to rocks, could fly on clouds and dream. Born to know through feeling, children flourish or perish. So too the animals. What world we make for ours and theirs can blind in pain or bind in light to love. I knew a child who saw the light and felt all pain that shone with joy in love for all. Uncorrupted like eternal spring, the child within moves on, secure in a universe embraced. In grace and wonder, innocent and self, this child is parent to us all.
Thank you, Michael. That was a really wonderful poem, and thank you for sharing it with us. I so appreciate your heart and all the compassion that you carry. Do you think things are changing, Michael, now? I mean, it seems to me that there's a lot of energy coming in from the universe, from unseen beings to support human beings in our evolution here. And my perception is that the forces that be, mostly based on money and greed, are fighting for their lives, so there's this huge battle going on between different forces, those of us who want to honor the connection with all life and those who just want to make money. But I'm seeing more and more people waking up. More and more people are open to animal communication, for instance, and telepathy and all kinds of things. So do you see that happening as well? And especially with your column, you probably have a reflection of that.
Yes, I had one letter recently from a woman. She said, your column is saving my life. That she's an animal communicator and is suffering. And my response was, you're not alone. A lot of people are suffering. But we have to get out there to join civil society, speak for the earth, speak for your community, speak for the animals. And I think with the Trump administration and the materialism that you're talking about, and the trade war, all this materialistic nonsense, is the last wave of Kali Yuga, a stage of darkness where we're going to push through And it's going to become something of the past as civil society rises up and speaks for social justice, ecological justice, and animal rights and conservation, because it's all connected, one earth, one health. And it's going to be a survival impulse, ultimately economically. Economics means taking care of your home, and spiritually. So I'm a long-term optimist that it's going to be a challenge for the younger generations with increasing climate change, extreme temperatures, the declining extinction of insects, the pollinators, the recyclers that we need, and it's going to be difficult. But many young people are either not having children or they're consuming less. There's a whole buy down movement. And the 3 R's: recycle, repair, reuse. One positive side of the trade war. Tariffs go up, people are going to buy less. So buying less means manufacturing less, which ultimately could be a very good thing for the planet. But these are rather challenging times.
But you mentioned that you have someone who reflected on your column who's an animal communicator, and we were just sharing a moment ago that we feel there are more and more people who are tuning into these abilities. They're cultivating these skills, these abilities to connect very deeply with the natural world. And Michael, in your book on OneHealth, your new book on OneHealth, there's a quote in there. You cite Chief Dan George, and I really love this quote. If you talk to the animals, they will talk with you, and you will know each other. If you do not talk with them, you will not know them. And what you do not know, you will fear. What one fears, one destroys. I would love to hear your thoughts about this. If you think animals and plants can speak with us in various ways. Do you see that people in our culture are waking up to this reality? I know you've spoken about the empathosphere and this.
Yes, I think a lot of people are waking up. From what I learned from my column, they have dogs and cats and maybe other animal companions in their homes. And there seems to be a deeper sense of understanding. But I always urge them, if you have an animal who is enriching your life, giving you entertainment, companionship, enjoyment, you must expand that bubble and get out and help other animals in the community, volunteer at the animal shelter, start fostering animals that need a home so that they can be adopted into responsible homes. There is an opening going on. And another Native American, Chief Sealth, said, when the animals are gone, we will die from a great loneliness of spirit. And people are satisfying the loneliness of spirit by having animals in their lives. But we need to burst that bubble so that they can expand that feeling of communication and communion with another sentient being, to embrace the other animals in that community, and also consider more how their lifestyle impact other animals that they never see, or the animals that they're eating, or the animals that they go to see and take children to see in a circus. No animal, performing animal, like an elephant or a tiger, should ever be in a circus, or captive whales at, marine gardens or whatever they're called. All of that should stop in a more empathic, civilized society, and I think it's coming. There are so many people now involved in rescuing endangered species, in rewilding and changing their diet and awakening to the call of nature, to the call of life, of which we are an inseparable part. So I see grounds for hope there.
Yeah, and I know I'll just speak for myself. I think what this, for me, the introduction into this intuitive way of connecting with animals, I think what it did for me was it created that pathway to deeper empathy. I was just sitting this morning. I just sat for 15 minutes looking outside. I have a garden view, beautiful garden view outside my room here. And I just felt like sitting and watching just whatever was in front of me, the trees, the plants, some insects, some birds. And I thought to myself, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I don't know if I would have ever done this. Just sat here without expectations, without taking any action. It was like, instead of meditating this morning, that's what I did. That was my meditation. And I spent, a lot of time today thinking about that I think that what led me there was this understanding that I have developed over the last few years that animals are, of course, they're sentient and they're intelligent, but also through animal communication, I heard more about what they had to share with us. And it gave me a tool, a way, a method to feel an even deeper connection and to really respect the agency that they have.
And your beginning on that path was to be still in their presence. And when we are still in the presence of another animal, then we start to learn from them. Then the communication starts. Then we open up. When we still our thoughts and still our bodies, we're just there. Their presence will imbued. We will become imbued by their presence. These are the animal powers. And I met the ceremonial chief of the Lakota Sioux Nation, Frank Foolsgrove, many years ago. And he described the meditation ritual that he went through for healing, called the Uweepi ceremony. And he would have a sack put over his head. And he said the light beings would come to him. He said, you Christians would call them angels, perhaps. But these light beings come to me, and then they show me which plant to take for healing. And when he's in this altered state, plants will communicate with him. And he said this is a way of seeing through feeling. And when we open up to these other intelligences, they can reach us and we can serve them. And one of my prayer meditations is to have the wisdom, the courage, and the stamina to serve the common good and the good of the common. Common good is all living beings, and the commons is the natural world, living planet. And it's a challenge because, and this is the burden of empathy, that you suffer. You have to have the courage to take on that suffering, and it is the burden of the healer.
When I first started as an animal communicator many years ago, and it was actually when I was at a holistic veterinary conference in Hawaii. And at that time, I'd already been speaking with dolphins, though I didn't call it animal communication. I didn't know there was such a thing. And I went on a boat with some of the other people from the conference, and there were dolphins. And I had just been in a workshop with an animal communicator, Penelope Smith, who'd been doing it for years. And I was all excited. I thought, this is what I want to do with my life. And I was in this boat and I connected in with the dolphins. And I said, is this my work? And what I heard was, heal yourself first. And I thought, what the heck does that mean? Does that mean I need to take a day or two and be quiet? What does it mean? And I've come to realize that it's all about, if we don't heal ourselves, some of these wounds in ourselves, some of these limitations that we impose upon ourselves, we're not able to be an authentic vehicle for the animals to speak with us or any other beings, because we project our own fears and limitations onto them. So
exactly, and part of the healing is not just the emotional burdens from the pains and suffering we've experienced, but also the healing of our mind, our attitude.
yes.
And the first attitude toward animals is that they're just varmints. They're just unfeeling things. They don't have emotions. They don't have a life of their own. Indeed, they do. I think one of my past lives was probably a frog.
That's great.
But I'm not ready to croak yet.
That's great.
But I do like to play the didgeridoo, which is kind of frog-like in some ways. I can make various sounds, but I think, and this is part of the next book that I'm writing, our very foundation of understanding of music and dance, inspired by other species, sounds of the birds make, the drumming noise, the sound of the wind in the trees. So much of our art is inspired from nature, and art reflects our spirit.
There's some beautiful videos I've seen recently on social media where there's a gentleman who sits in the forest or on a farm or somewhere, and he starts singing and he's playing the guitar, and the giraffes will start walking towards him, or the cows will come, or the birds will come, the squirrels will come. I think that's his entire, every video is just a different setting with different animals. And it's just so sweet, because I think I've been thinking about this lately, that there are few languages that are universal.
You got it. That's
Yeah,
correct.
music is one of them. I think food
Mhm.
probably another. I
Yeah.
also think the love of animals is also universal. Like, there are people around the world who have deep connections with animals, who really revere them, and I think those are some key languages that we can all speak. Like, I think we could find people in distant parts of the world who feel the way we feel about animals, and
Yeah.
that's
I think this is a moving forward. My friend Paul Winter with the Paul Winter Consort, he's given concerts based on whale song and wolf howling and composing music around the sounds of nature. I must send you a picture of me where I'm playing my shakuhachi, Japanese flute, for a very large giraffe who's bending down listening. And I played my didgeridoo for horses and other animals. It is a universal way of communication, communion. Remember years ago when at the International Ethology Conference, where Roger Payne played the first audio sounds of the songs of the humpback whale, and we were completely stunned. Amazing. And these big speakers, 200-300 of us in the audience. We were the first public to hear the songs of the humpback whale. And I think that is coming, Barbara, through animal communication, that they are trying to communicate with us. Perhaps overall they're trying to heal us, that they know that we're on the wrong path. We're not on the pollen path yet.
The elephants have told me in the book that I wrote that humans are like babies and we're very immature species.
Mhm.
And it's really true. And they said, if you have a child that's misbehaving, instead of getting angry and hitting him and all that stuff, what do? You understand that he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's ignorant. And you just try to be as patient as you can and you educate him or her. So we are like babies, this very, very immature species.
Oh, yeah.
And hopefully we are evolving at least into teenagers.
Yes, they are exactly correct. We are the unfinished animal on the planet.
Yeah.
And in terms of evolutionary time, we are a relatively recent species compared to the time, millions of years, that elephants and other species have been around. We are, what, 500,000, 750,000 years old? Well, they're so much older and wiser than we are. So we are, in a sense, the unfinished animal. I call it adult essence. And it's essentially stuck in the ego stage. And we have to go from the ego sphere into the ecosphere and the empathosphere. And that will be the blossoming of Homo empathicus, or a better form of humankind. And one of my inspiring figures was the very Reverend James Parks Morton, Dean of the Cathedral of St. John the Divine in New York. And he said that ecology is the science of the body of Christ, through which we of the earth community learn our sacred connections. And then I flip over to Bill Niaji, who's a Gagaju elder in Australian Aboriginal. And I published his writings in one of my books. And the quote from him would go like this: sometimes we feel sick or we get a headache. That's because somebody is cutting the tree or burning the grass. We feel these things because we are part of the tree, we are in the grass. Now, if we can awaken this sensibility, and I don't use the word telepathy because a lot of people think it's kind of spooky. I use the word deep empathy. When that empathic connection is awakened, I think we might have the opportunity to turn things around and to begin to evolve. Mm-hmm. But it's going to be a challenge because of the rates of extinction of natural habitats and species now is accelerating. And I see what makes us human also very much endangered.
What gives you a sense of hope, that there could be a positive?
I have hope when the birds come to my feeders and the opossums and the raccoons come to the food that I put out in the evening. And there's a wonderful term, it's called theophany. When I hear a bird song, to me it's a theophany, which is the presence of divinity and God, if you wish. And every creature is a manifestation, a theophany of divine presence. And we need to connect with that immanent and omnipresent sense of divinity. All things are sacred, and these are our connections.
Michael, is there anything else you would like to share with our audience today? Anything, any takeaways from this conversation, any important messages?
This is for you, Barbara. Sacred elephant. In the racial memory of elephants long before the dawn of human consciousness, perhaps they, like us much later, recognized and revered a Buddha or a Krishna in their midst. appearing in their own image once in every millennium, guide, inform, inspire, awakening them to the nature of divinity, the divinity in their nature, and the power of loving kindness. If this is true for us, then their truth we share to celebrate the sacred presence that illumes our mortal lives. Perhaps elephants are more enlightened, Buddha-natured, Krishna-conscious than we, a younger species beginning to evolve, recognize and revere to save them from extinction and all that makes us human, giving loving kindness to them all, and every creature, great and small. This was published in Giant Hearts, Travels in the World of Elephants by P. Priyavadu and Priyadavada, inspired by Hito Williams' book, Sacred Elephant.
Oh my God, it's so beautiful. Thank you so much.
You're two beautiful souls. And thank you. And if we want to do a bit more of something or other, anything that comes up, let's do it.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. This has been, I'm really emotional now through this whole thing. Actually, you have been such a voice for the animals for so many years. And it's such important work. And I'm just so appreciative to you and so honored that you chose to be with us here today. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, we must all carry on and do the best that we can. Love you both. Take care. Bye-bye.
Love you too. We'd like to end this podcast by taking just a moment to be quiet. And we give thanks and blessings to these amazing animals that we share our lives with. They give us so much and ask for so little in return. We hope that you can keep the animals and all living beings in your heart and in your mind as you go about your day. Thank you so much for being here with us today.